AITA for telling my sister that her anxious dog has to live outside. So, my sister and her BF, who have a toddler together, have some financial problems and have asked me to move in with me. Which, it's just me and 2 cats in a 4-bedroom home on 3 acres of land, and I have a stable income, so I'm happy to help. However, my sister has a very anxious dog. It's a pit bull and has been known to be destructive in the past. She got this dog when we lived together 6 years ago, and I paid about $1,500 in repairs stemming from the dog when she moved out. I never asked for reimbursement for those funds. I understand that pets are pets and it's not worth fighting over something that I could afford to repair, but I don't really want to keep spending money in repairs, so I've asked that if she brings her dog, we set it up with a dog home outside. She is not happy at all. Apparently she believes that this is cruel, even though I have an enclosed shed that I offered to convert into a dog home for it, including heating it, which I will be paying for, since it's still pretty cold at night here, and it has 3 acres of space. And while I get that she would prefer to have it indoors, I really don't want my house destroyed by an anxious dog, and my cats that didn't much care for this dog when it was a puppy, and one of them is fairly old now. She doesn't need that stress. I'll admit, I'm not a dog person. Dogs stress me out with their energy in the first place, so I know that I'm probably biased, but I'm honestly wondering if I'm being the asshole here. Now you are totally accommodating to them, and it's totally fair you don't want damages in your house, but indoor dogs can't become outdoor ones like this, especially a very anxious plus short haired dog. It would be a real trauma for him. You offered your solution. Maybe they can propose one you can compromise on, like keeping the dog in one room, or it in a cage when not supervised, or simply training him. But in the end, your house, your rules, and if you can't accommodate the dog, they will have to find another place to stay. You and your sister should have discussed it before you agreed for her to move in. The dog is part of her family, and she is right. Putting an indoor dog outside is cruel to the dog. But she could talk to you about the dog before and make sure you both on the same page. You need to have a conversation with her and make sure she understands your side. I'm sure you can both find a solution that both of you agree with and doesn't harm the dog. I just want to note couple of things here. If the dog was a puppy 6 years ago, it's reasonable it doesn't do much harm to furnitures anymore because it's no longer a puppy. My dog is an indoor dog. If we get her outside and close the door, she can do a lot of damage to the door because she panics and starts to scratch it. Getting the dog outside might cause more damage than keeping it inside. This sub constantly brings one of my favorite camera lines to the front of my brain. I did it. Alright, I admit it. Now pick your next move. You can leave or live with it. You're doing her a favor. Beggars can't be choosers. Tell her you'd be more than happy to see her dog living inside when you go visit her at her own place. NTA. NTA, you are doing your sister a favor by allowing her and her family to move in with you. I would understand her position if you were not going to make sure the dog was safe and comfortable, but it seems like you are going out of your way to do so by installing and paying for the shed to be heated. If this is a deal breaker for her, then it should be a deal breaker for you. You don't need to put up someone in your home at the expense of your own animals' well-beings and the destruction of your home. I have 3 dogs myself and wouldn't let them behave this way, but if they did, I would never want to force their bad behavior on anyone else. One of my dogs would rather be outside all day. We have to chase her to get her to come in. Lols. Her dog will be fine. NTA. Was fully prepared to say the opposite from the title simply because I agree it's cruel to put an animal out in the element that isn't used to it. However, you are being more than accommodating, offering to convert and heat your shed at your own expense. No less. Totally flip that to your favor. She is being unreasonable. If in the past her dog caused damage and issues that you never made a big deal of or asked for reimbursement, she should understand that it's your house and your rules. NTA. She really needs to seek out a behavioral therapist for the dog and put in some real effort to begin managing the dog's anxiety. You can't just buy a crate and expect to put the dog in it and have that be successful. So I'm not surprised the dog destroyed it when that was attempted previously. Time, effort, and consistency are all really important. Your solution seems to be the best in the current situation. I would sit her down and explain that she needs to seek training, and until the dog shows improvement, he will have to remain kenneled outside unless very closely supervised. Please just make sure that it's set up in a way that he can't hurt himself and so that he has lots to do. A busy mind makes for a happy dog. NTA, I would say get a dog trainer in to resolve the behavior, but it sounds like you would have to pay for it. Honestly, the situation just sucks all around. It kind of seems like your sister is taking advantage. Her dog caused a decent amount of damage and she didn't offer to reimburse you or even pay a little. She doesn't seem to be trying to change the dog's behavior in any way or compromise. You then offered to pay money to cover the space for the dog with heating, so it is comfortable, and she still isn't happy. Ultimately, it is your house and you should be able to have your house the way you want it and not having to worry about your belongings or your pets being damaged or hurt. She is a guest in your house, but seems to be acting like it's her place. Yes, a pet is a lifelong commitment, but you didn't make that commitment and is ultimately not your responsibility, and it is up to your sister to find an appropriate solution as the dog belongs to her, and if that solution is finding another home, if that is best for the dog, then so be it. NTA, you are going out of your way to be helpful and even paying out of your pocket for it. It seems to me that people aren't truly grateful anymore for anything. Living with someone is very stressful, and living with a family is very stressful. You are the opening your home for her and her family, and it's not good enough. This will end badly, I'm afraid. AITA, for reminding my brother that he's adopted and not a true part of my family. So I'm 19F and my brother is 18. He was adopted when I was 4 and my parents have been nothing but kind to him. They treat us exactly the same, and he knows that they've given him a good life with amazing opportunities. My only issue is that he's very clingy and too attached. He was always like that. For example, when we were little, he always wanted to play with me and not other kids. Our teachers had to physically separate us because he wouldn't let go of my arm. Over the years the attachment wasn't that extreme, but he's still clingy. I'm not sure why, but it's tiring. Anyway, I was FaceTiming my cousin and her friends. My brother was also with me in the room and her friends noticed him in the background and asked who that is. Before I could answer, someone asked if he's my boyfriend. Cringe. And I explained that he's my brother. They pointed out that we look nothing alike, so I clarified that he's adopted. I explained that he has never blended in with my family because he just looks/behaves too different. My brother was suddenly very quiet and left the room. After a while I went to speak to him and we had a huge argument. He thinks that I hate to be associated with him because I'm always quick to clarify we're not biologically related. I told him that he's not a true part of my family, so I have the right to tell people he's adopted. He just looked at me with a blank stare and didn't reply. Honestly, I was pretty mad and told him to leave me alone for a while. Apparently my dad saw him crying and I got into serious trouble with my parents. IDK if he told them what happened, but I've never seen him cry, so they probably think it's very serious. They're furious with me and want me to apologize. AITA, for being truthful with my brother. AITA, the lack of empathy you have for others is insane. How could you not be the asshole here? If the first 4 years of his life were seriously damaging enough that he couldn't be with his birth family, of course there's gonna emotional issues and slight clinginess. Blood or not, he's your brother and just as much as part of the family as you are. Good on your parents for taking his side, because what you said right in front of him was cruel and fucking heartless and you should be ashamed. I couldn't even imagine how he feels now. AITA, to the extreme. I have a sort of adopted brother. It's not even a legal adoption. He still lives with his BO family, but he's lived with us too. He's gone on family vacations. We didn't even know he existed until he was 15. He's 11 years older than me. He is my brother, and I'll never say he's not part of my true family because he is part of my family. It's obvious he's adopted. He's Asian. I'm white. Very, very white. He's still my brother. Your brother has never known anything but your family. You are it. And to say that he's not just because he's not biologically related is shitty to such an extreme. You should be groveling for his forgiveness. He considers you his family regardless of genetics and you don't deserve him. Family doesn't end in blood, opus. Family is more than DNA. As an example, in your own home, your parents aren't blood related to each other. They are two people who came together and built a home and life together, which should be proof enough that people do not to be related through DNA to love each other and be a family, albeit a different kind of love than siblings or towards children. The fact that two people can choose to live together and become a family is proof alone that you are wrong. They also then chose your brother. They had the love and space in their heart to open their lives and their home to someone and add them to their family. If anyone doesn't blend, it's you. You do not have the space, love and kindness in your heart. After spending most of your life in a house with your parents, son, how could you say such a thing? He absolutely is family. What you said was incredibly cruel and unnecessary. You were malicious. Adoption is a wonderful special thing that brings humans together. If I was your mother, I'd be so disappointed in you. You're right. He's not your family. Family treat each other with love and respect, and you, being the awful spiteful person you are incapable of giving that to him. Family isn't determined by blood, which I'm sure you can't understand. So for you to say such a thing is cruel. I really hope that he sees you for what you truly are and that he no longer gives his love to someone that doesn't deserve it. This boy doesn't deserve your disgusting behavior. He deserves a lifetime of apologies from you. I'm so glad that your parents see the wrong in you and actually treat him like a human being that deserve a family and love. AITA. As someone who was adopted and lived with an incredible family, this infuriates me. He is your brother regardless if your parents have birthed to him or not. What you said is disgusting, and if my sister had said that to me, I would reacted the same way. Grow up. AITA. Do you even need an explanation into how utterly terrible your words and actions are? Your parents adopted him when he was 3. You don't know what he went through before he was adopted. You have no idea what abandonment feels like, which is likely the reason that he's so attached. Do you have any shred of compassion or empathy? Could you imagine the uncertainty of a child in care waiting to be adopted? There is no permanent home, no mom and dad. There's social workers shuffling from home to home, no lasting friendships built, no siblings. Just being thrown around like getting caught in a current with absolutely no control. Once your parents adopted him, he got all the things he was missing in, and he didn't want that to suddenly vanish like everything else in his young life. Shame on you. Most, if not all, of his permanent memories are attached to his family, your family. It's all he really knows, and he doesn't want that to ever go away. How dare you attempt to ostracize him and make him feel like he is lesser because he's not biologically related. That's the most fucked up thing I've heard of this year. Your parents should be ashamed of you. As some random internet person, I'm absolutely disgusted. Your parents, true angels. Adoption is not easy. Treat you both exactly the same, and you undermine all of that because you're embarrassed that your brother loves you. You have never had to worry about being alone and unloved. He has. I really hope your parents see you differently forever if you don't apologize. Frankly, you should grovel at your brother's feet for forgiveness. Wow, you better be a troll or just a sociopath, because big time AITA. You said he's a year younger than you. That means he was adopted at 3. 3 is old enough to have some foggy experiences of being adopted and having to integrate into a new family. He was probably really clingy because he was afraid that this new family he was with wasn't going to last. You said to your friends while he was in the room that he's not your real brother and that he's never been a part of the family. He's very aware he's adopted, but that does not make him not a true part of the family. All you've done is worsen his anxieties and fears of not belonging and not being wanted. How dare you? AITA. He was adopted into your family. That makes him a true part of your family. My parents have been nothing but kind to him. Of course. He is their son. He may look different on the outside, but you are the one who is different on the inside. I explained that he has never blended in with my family because he just looks/behaves too different. This is one of the biggest asshole statements I've ever read. True family? Way to reject your brother because he's adopted. AITA. AITA for telling my stepdaughter I don't love her as much as my biological children. My wife and I met at a support group for families of kids with serious chronic medical conditions. I won't go into specifics of it, but my 14-year-old daughter Catalin is ill and my wife's 16-year-old daughter Ashley is as well, though she's been in remission with treatment. I met my stepdaughter when she was 13 and married her mom when she was 14. We all live together and I have 2 cars while my wife has one. One of my cars, Mustang, is a sort of toy I have, wasn't meant to be used a bunch, just worked on. My other car is a Toyota and used for daily purposes. Since Ashley got her driver's license, I've been letting her use my Toyota while I use the Mustang. She started begging me to let her use the Mustang, always guilt tripping me saying how she never had a serious father figure and it would make her feel like she did. But she does, she sees her father every weekend. He just isn't as well off. Anyways, I eventually caved, because it's pretty hard to say no after seeing all the problems she had to face so early in life. She hasn't wrecked it thankfully. Recently, my own daughter's health took a turn for the worst. She wasn't responding to the treatment plan she'd had anymore and was recommended to a new drug trial at a hospital 8 hours away. My wife had just started her new position at her job and was making better money. To have her up and move with me just wasn't an option. But we both agreed that I needed to move for my daughter. I planned on selling my Mustang to help finance this move. When I talked with Ashley about the move, she didn't seem to care about Catalin's health or the move at all. The first thing she asked was if she could keep the Mustang. I told her that I needed to sell it to help with the move, which she laughed at and asked, "Are you serious?" She was under this impression that we just had loads of money and this wasn't necessary. I told her that with other expenses, it's the best thing for me and my daughter. She asked, "Well, I'm your daughter too, right?" And I said, "Of course." She asks, "And you love me, right?" I say, "Yes. So can't you let me keep the car? I need it, and you have your own." I was getting really frustrated that she wouldn't drop it. I have a lot on my mind and all she cares about is this car. I kept telling her no, I need to sell it for Catalin. She says if you loved me as much as Catalin you wouldn't be putting her over me. I kept reminding her that I do love her, but she wouldn't drop it. So finally I told her that, while I don't love her as much, or the same way as I do my own daughter, I love her in a different way. She immediately ran to her mom and made it out to be that I'm favoring my daughter over her, this poor sick child who just wanted love. Now my wife is angry and honestly I don't care. This is about Catalin, and she doesn't have both parents. Just me. Am I the asshole for what I said? NTA. I'm a child of divorce, so this is a dynamic I understand pretty well. She was absolutely trying to manipulate you. She understands it's culturally unacceptable for you to admit to loving one child more than the other, and she was betting on you caving as a result of her issuing what amounts to an ultimatum. You called her bluff, and I imagine she's as much upset about the fact she's just lost her ace in the hole as she is about what you actually said. NTA. I'm a child of divorce, so this is a dynamic I understand pretty well. She was absolutely trying to manipulate you. She understands it's culturally unacceptable for you to admit to loving one child more than the other, and she was betting on you caving as a result of her issuing what amounts to an ultimatum. You called her bluff, and I imagine she's as much upset about the fact she's just lost her ace in the hole as she is about what you actually said. AITA. It's your job to be the adult. It's a teenagers are selfish and push boundaries. You never ever should have told this child that you don't love her. AITA, your daughter may be entitled, but whether you are her real dad or not, you are an important figure in her life, and that was not what you should have told her. She's a teenager. Put her in her place without putting her down. Tell her you care about her, but the health of a child is more important than the transportation of another child. SHM. Be an adult. Look, you could have phrased this better, but her stepsister is sick and all she cares about is the car, not what can be done to help. That's hideous. I'm not sure a reasonable person in the same situation wouldn't have totally snapped. NTA. AITA. You never tell one child of yours that you love another child of yours more. You're the one who just reinforced the step and stepchild. She was definitely emphasizing the child in stepchild, but you are the adult, and that is a line that you never cross. It doesn't look to me like this had anything to do with loving one child more than the other. This was about adult judgment, which she doesn't have, because that part of the brain doesn't fully develop until about age 25. Yes, with brain plasticity it's possible to develop more, like building muscles with exercise, but at age 16, there just isn't enough prefrontal cortex to fully grasp what goes into an adult decision. I also imagine she had some more sense than she was acting like she had, but she was acting out emotionally, at least, in part because of family stress. Her sister is sick, and they may have a special kind of bond due to both having chronic medical conditions. It sounds like you and Ashley bonded too in a father-daughter way, but now you're moving too. She already had one father move out. Teenage girls especially don't always say things directly. It's almost like a code. While it's possible that she is just uncaring and materialistic, you're the one who knows her. It's also possible that she was feeling disposable and felt like you would be back for the Mustang, even if you wouldn't be back for her. So if she had the Mustang, she would see you again when you came back for that. Remember, we are talking about the thought process of someone whose prefrontal cortex is not yet developed. Possibly her biggest question, the one she needed a stream of reassurances about after already having had one father move out, was, do you still love me? If someone doubts that you love them, the first yes doesn't count. Maybe not the second or third either. Unfortunately, the answer she ultimately got to asking whether you love her was not so much yeah. The answer you wrongly gave was differently and not so much as your own daughter, but I guarantee that the answer she heard was not so much. Obviously you are NTA for prioritizing your daughter and sell the Mustang, but I mean, come on, you were kind of dumb for arguing like that. Your very first mistake was saying you needed the Mustang for your daughter. You should have said I need it for your sister instead. When she questioned if she was your daughter too, you should have said, yes, you are my daughter too, and I love you. Don't you love your sister? Her life is more important than keeping a car. Don't be selfish or something like that. You should have made clear that what needed to be prioritized the most is her sister, and not the Mustang. Her sister being the key words here, because wording it like my daughter, and I like you just did, is going to create misunderstandings like the one you currently are. Still, even if you were the dumbest, my verdict is still NTA, because even so your stepdaughter shouldn't be behaving like that. Much less your wife, who should be the understanding adult in this situation. Your stepdaughter seems to think her getting to drive a car that she doesn't own is more important than your daughter's health. More important than your daughter's life. The conversation should never have got that far. She was derailing by trying to make this about how much you love her instead of what you needed to do as a father for your sick child. Since it had nothing to do with how much you love her, you should never have gone down that rabbit hole and tried to justify your behavior by saying you're doing it because you love your biological daughter more than your stepdaughter. You can never take that back. You've created a rift between you and your stepdaughter for literally no reason. You need to work on communication and not letting your stepdaughter manipulate you by changing what the conversation is about and turning things into evidence of whether you love her or not. It was never about that. Yeah, you shouldn't have said that. Stepdaughter is absolutely being a brat, but the one sucking the most is her mother. She should be supporting you more, helping to handle those tricky confrontations, and reining that shitty behavior in. Reworded. It sounded like reining that shit in might be calling SD a shit. Oops. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like for more videos. Please wash your hands and stay safe.